What's up, everybody? It's time for another Dashboard Confessional. I recorded this video about like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, called a Dashboard Confessional about life and relationships, and I just hit the record button in my car, and it was like a rainy day, and here we are again in my truck on a rainy day. And I cannot even tell you how much feedback that I got from so many of you from that video that I dropped on YouTube, and then all the clips on social thereafter. And I said in the first video that I have a lot to say, and I do, and I am making this video to keep myself accountable and to keep talking about these really important topics that a lot of you want and need to talk about. And I'm really excited to see where this like little mini series takes us. I mean, I don't know what the finish line is here, but all I do know is that I want to keep talking in my truck to all of you and just give you the real deal and the real sauce when it comes to relationships, when it comes to life. For those of you who haven't watched part 1 yet, I really encourage you to watch part 1. In my on social media, on my social media channel, especially on Instagram, I'll make sure I link my YouTube channel so you all could binge and watch. And this is not scripted. This is very much Melissa hitting the record button without a teleprompter, without a script. It's really just me talking to all of you about things that have been in my heart, a lot of wisdom that I have been trying to integrate over the last couple of years. For those of you who need to be oriented here a little bit, I am a single mama who runs a branding agency called Grit and Grace Design Studio. I have an incredible family, amazing friends, and I have learned so much about life and relationships over the last couple of years, and I really feel the calling on my heart during this season to share a lot of that with you as I navigate this journey. For those of you who maybe are new here, I have been on quite the journey over the last couple of years when it comes to relationships. Obviously, I'm a single mom, so I am a mom. I've been married before, I've been divorced before, I've also been engaged before, and now I'm exploring this new journey and this new season of my life to really create a life that is aligned in every single way. However, with all that being said, so many of my friends in my life, guys and girls, we talk like every day. And the one thing that so many people really get hung up on is relationships. And you know what's so funny to me is there's this scene from the movie Eat, Pray, Love with Julia Roberts where she was on a quest to kind of find herself and find her soul, and one of the parts of her adventure was she went to this medicine man in Bali called Ketut, and one of the things that she said in the movie, which is so funny to me, is, you know, all this travel that people go to see like the most sought out medicine man. And you know what? More than half of the time, what their woes are, it's not a physical ailment, it's a broken heart. It's this one, I'm not sure if he likes me or not, or like, it's just so universal that relationships are sticky. And people will literally seek out like the deepest healers and medicine people like from all over the world to heal a broken heart, to seek out clarity when it comes to relationships, and as humans, we're so wired we're so wired for relationship, right? And I just find it so, it just makes me chuckle a little bit. And it also gives me a sense of peace that, you know, not all of us have this whole relationship thing figured out. And what a beautiful thing that is, you know, to not have it all figured out, and to be open to the endless waves of transformation that relationships have to offer to us. And that's kind of what I mentioned in the first video, is how can we not be attached to necessarily a person, but the value that they bring, the lesson that they bring to your life. However, I am noticing a theme with a lot of the conversations that I've been having with friends over the last, especially over the last couple of months, you know, as I'm navigating this new journey and this new season of my life. There's so much coming through me to like help my loved ones like navigate these sticky relationships in their life. So I have some ideas about what I want to talk to all of you about today. I would say I just have like 4 bullet points that I want to mention. And the other thing is, anything that I say, please, I have to say my disclaimer, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. By no means do I have this whole thing figured out. Even though technically I'm a clinical psychotherapist and I have done couples therapy and family therapy with people, this is just my own personal anecdote about this stuff. And I also think that I have integrated this pattern that we will attract partners in our life, and we will attract relationships in our life based on our nervous system and like how we're wired to bond to somebody. And I think where a lot of us get in trouble is that we don't know what the hell that is. I think where we get in trouble is we don't understand like the neuroscience behind our relationships. And before you know it, you're, you know, off like in a tailspin in a relationship that doesn't feel fulfilling to you. You are maybe attracting a partner that doesn't feel aligned for you. And I would hate to see some of you repeat the patterns that I did in my life. So this is kind of like a battle cry to say, hey, like the things that I'm about to talk about today, you may have never heard before. The things that I'm about to that I'm about to say might trigger you. The things that I'm about to say might give you a sense of relief, like, oh my God, you can have that light bulb aha moment, like, holy crap, I didn't even think of it that way. No wonder I feel like this. You know, I'm hoping that this will either shock you, realign you, or support you. Which is such a Sagittarius thing to say. Like, let's just light the fire up and just trigger you, but then realign you and shine the light on maybe some patterns that you have leaned into in your relationships that aren't serving you. And that's what I'm hoping to do today. One of the things that I want to start off by talking about is, and this principle, when I tell you, it has helped so many people if they're struggling in a situationship. And honestly, it's even helped me navigate some of the situationships that I've been in, you know, in my life. And not even just situationships, but just relationships in general. And I want to explain this to you because our brain, bless its heart, but our brain really can make things more challenging for us. And the first thing I want to talk about is MTG. It's mind the gap. If you've never heard of this concept before, and listen, if you don't get anything else from this video, please just pay attention for like the next like 3 to 5 minutes, okay? Now, in plain language, minding the gap, and when I say gap, what that means is this space between who somebody is and who you hope that they will become. And I want to talk about that liminal space between both of these points, because this is where a lot of us get stuck in relationships, and it's because our brain does a certain thing, and that's what I kind of want to like explain and give you a cool perspective on this whole thing. So listen, there have been times in my life where I have not fallen for the person per se, but I have fallen for their potential. I have fallen for who they could be if they healed, if they matured, if they finally followed through, if their actions actually like aligned with their words. Like, have you ever done that before, where you can fantasize about the potential, you can fantasize about the future, and we can just tell ourselves, like, listen, all they need is time. They just need time. They just need to go to therapy. They just need me. You know, like, no one's ever believed in them as much as I do, right? And the analogy that I have for that is it's like buying a fixer-upper house and pretending and acting like it's already renovated. It's not based in reality. You're living not in reality. You're living in a blueprint and not the actual building of what's in front of you. Does that make sense? And I want to explain why this happens, why our brain does this. There's nothing wrong with you, but I need you to understand that our brain does this for a reason. Our brain does this for a reason. And it's because of one chemical in the brain, and you're going to hear me talk about this chemical a lot, especially in this video today, and it's dopamine. Now, if you don't know what dopamine is this amazing feel-good chemical that gets released in your brain and your entire body thereafter when you like somebody. However, dopamine, think of it as like this anticipation chemical. It's not love. Dopamine is not love. Even though the sensation of dopamine in your body is so good and it feels so like, the thrill of it, like, it feels so good. It feels so good. But I have to burst your bubble. Dopamine isn't love. Dopamine is this chemical that actually isn't like, oh my God, this person loves me and I love them. Dopamine is this chemical that instead says, oh my gosh, like, this could be amazing. It's this anticipation that happens. And the other thing that happens in your brain is it will, and this is the gap part, right? It will fill in missing information with fantasy. It will try to close that gap for you. Your brain will try to close that gap for you. And what I want to challenge you to do is don't close the gap for that person. Let their actions close the gap, not your brain and your fantasy doing that, because that's where I think we get into trouble. And I also think, like, in the past, what I've done is like cognitive dissonance, where I'll make excuses for somebody to reduce the amount of comfort. Like, that's a thing our brain does too. It will try to over rationalize and make logical sense of someone else's actions to close that gap, because it's uncomfortable to acknowledge that reality doesn't match your desires. So your brain will try its best to do that, even if that's unhealthy for your brain to do that. But it's wired to do that. You know, the other thing that I think happens is when you get into a relationship with somebody and it's just like a dopamine flood and hit again and again and again, and you're not building the relationship from a more stable place, which we'll talk about in this video too, is that you'll get like this hot and cold, like intermittent reinforcement to your dopamine levels, like in your brain. So you end up like craving this other person like a drug. And when that person withdraws or pulls back, I kid you not, like some of my friends that are trying to navigate the single life, they have literally said to me, Melissa, it feels like I am withdrawing from a drug. He didn't text me for 4 hours. You know, like that connection with somebody is making your nervous system go like this. And that is not sustainable in the long term. And what I think happens is we get stuck on trying to close this gap for people. And, you know, think of like some real life examples of this gap. Like think of a relationship in your life where this person is, right, how they are behaving and how they're operating in relationship with you, but then where you want them to be. And are you doing anything to try and close that gap for them? Yeah. It's a hard pill to swallow because more often than not, there's gaps there. You know, if someone says, you know, oh, they're about to start a business, you know, like for 3 years now, okay. You know, if they make promises after a big fight or something and then nothing changes, there's a gap there. You know, so what is your brain doing to try and close that gap? And what I've also had to learn in my relationships and the periods in my life where I was single too, is that I can't track somebody's promises. I have to track their patterns. And remember, people will tell you with their actions where they're really at with you. And that's why I always tell people, like, don't tell me, show me. You know, you can promise me everything in the world that I desire. But if there's no follow through on that, if there's no actions to back up what it is you're saying, literally those words mean nothing to me. Because I've been burned so many times in my life with people making empty promises, and I don't bite the bait anymore. I track patterns now. I don't track people's promises because words mean nothing. Words mean nothing. I also think you need to ask yourself, like, if you're having a gap problem and I've asked myself this question too, when I've had to like figure out relationships in my life, is if this person never changed, would I still want this? If this person never changed, would I still want this? And there were times where, even in friendships, like I had to stop investing in this person's future self. I had to stop investing or stop dating their future self. I had to date the person that's in front of me. You know, it's like date the house as is, like going back to that renovation analogy, right? Like you have to be willing to move into the house as it is today, not where it is, 5 years from now. And it's okay to give grace to people and like ride hard seasons out with people. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you're being delusional and you're staying in relationships and things that you know is never going to change. When you know that the blueprint isn't good and that you're continuing to invest in relationships with shitty foundation, it's going to bite you in the ass. It's gonna bite you in the butt. I'm telling you, I have invested in so many relationships in my life where I knew that the foundation and the blueprint wasn't good. And I gave grace for way too long. When I should have like been in friendship and navigated the person that's actually in front of me, not the person I want them to be. I have personally taken on the burden of closing that gap so many times, and all that did was prolong the inevitable, cause more pain for both people, and destroy my nervous system. That's all it did. And I have a sneaky suspicion that's a pattern that a lot of you have done too, because you have to stop tracking promises. You need to track patterns. What is this person telling you? If they could not speak, what are their actions telling you? Let me tell you. And thank God, like God's hand is over my life, because even when I was stupid and made all these mistakes in my life, God just realigns and restacks things even more in my favor in the long run. Like, thank you, God, for that. But when you know better, you do better. And I am so mindful of that gap now in my relationships, business and personal and beyond, because it is exhausting closing that gap when that person's behaviors is supposed to close the gap. So that's like the first thing that I would say is mind the gap. Don't close the gap for somebody. Let their actions do it. If you've seen season 1 of the Cosmic Confessions podcast that I did with my 2 best friends, we had a whole episode on this, and it's called your VP. What is your VP? Your VP stands for your value point, or another person's value point. So in very plain language, the value point is what you bring to the table in a connection and what that other person brings to the table in terms of a connection. This could be friendship, this could be intimate relationships, pick your poison, right? I think where we also get into trouble, where I've gotten into trouble, where when I'm not clear on, because I'm pretty good, like I know the value that I bring to relationships, business and beyond. Like I know my worth, I know the energy that I bring into relationships, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses when it comes to this stuff. But there have been times in my life where I'm like all present, doing all my thing, being my authentic self, and then I'm not checking and doing inventory on what's the value that this person is bringing to me. You know, I'm bringing all the ingredients to the recipe of a healthy relationship, right? But what are they bringing to the table? And again, oftentimes, you know, if we're not satisfied in relationships, we will recognize like, oh my God, I am putting so much on this table, and they're not really bringing much of anything. Like think of it like a potluck, you know, like I'm bringing most of the food, you know, not that I don't mind eating my own food because it's delicious, but like, what are you bringing to the party here? Right? So that's like one way to think of your VP. The other thing to think of your VP is like, what are your core values that you will never, ever compromise on? You can compromise on where to eat, right? Where you want to go for lunch or dinner, right? But these are things that you will not compromise on. You know, for me, some of my like VPs in relationships are loyalty. Well, that's for sure number one. I will not compromise on that in terms of the value that I bring to the table, and that same value my partner has to bring to the table too. Work ethic, integrity, money values, like how I see money and treat money, and how the other person does too. How conflict is handled, like what are those VPs for you? This is the value that I bring to the table. Are our value points aligned? Like if you don't know, like the person that you share a home with, a person that you share a bed with, a person that you do business decisions with, if you don't know like what their top 5 like value points are in their life, you are literally like in a relationship with a stranger. Or maybe not a stranger, but someone that may very well not be aligned for you. They're like there is foundation level stuff that you need to have clarity on. And I think where we get into trouble is, before you know it, you're building this proverbial house with somebody on two totally freaking different blueprints, and then you're wondering why your marriage sucks, why you're not satisfied in your relationship in every dimension, if you follow what I'm saying. It's because you guys are not building the same thing, because the values that are important to you, the things that are important to you, you will build your life around, and so will that other person too. The whole point is to be building the same blueprint together and not competing with each other or getting into conflict later on. You know, it's like the image that's coming to mind is like two people building in two separate parts of the home, literally the paint color and the design that both of you despise and hate. What? That's crazy. That's crazy. And then you're surprised, like after a couple years when the renovation's done, that you guys hate it. Like, what? You have to be clear about that from the jump. And I feel so lucky that like every season and every journey where I get to explore a new relationship in my life, that I get to try and do better, like this time around, you know, like I feel very blessed that I could do that. But if you're in a long-term relationship and you realize like, oh my God, like we have totally different blueprints, well, both of you have to, in an honest way, in a non-judgmental way, look at both of your blueprints, and can those blueprints come together so you can rebuild something that does feel aligned, one room at a time. But there are some blueprints, let me tell you, and I've had to learn this really hard lesson, there are some blueprints that won't ever work. And you may need to make the hard call of leaving that house, quote unquote, that you once built with a person, because they deserve to live out their blueprint, and so do you. And it's not easy to do that. You know, when I had to call off my engagement last year, that was a really hard blueprint to walk away from. But I knew the foundation that I needed to build a relationship from. And even though it was like so hard and so scary to do, I knew that a better blueprint was coming. I had the faith in that, and you have to have the faith in that too, you know. But if you're like with someone who violates your values, your nervous system will react to that. Because let me tell you, the body keeps the score. If you are exhausted all the time, if you're stressed out, if you have this tight chest, you have this anxiety, chronic misalignment with those blueprints will keep your cortisol levels high, because it's like your body is literally at war with itself. That's why I'm pretty convinced that's why I developed some autoimmune issues, is because literally my body started to attack itself because I was at war within myself about what's important to me, and staying in something that wasn't aligned anymore. Your body will always keep the score. So if you're struggling with value point stuff, I would say you need to write down your top 5 non-negotiables and talk to whatever relationship is under the spotlight right now. Ask them the same damn question. What are your 5 non-negotiables? And please, for the love of God, separate your preferences from your principles. Your preferences is just like, well, I like when your hair is blonde. Versus, I like when you clean, or I like when you clean the house, or I like when you do laundry, or I like when you do this, blah, blah, blah. That's like a preference. Principle is, I like it when you make me a priority. I like it when you are loyal to me. I like it when, you hustle at work. Like, what are those preferences versus principles? And express those things. And you need to check in with your body too. If your nervous system is like lost in the sauce and like all over the place, usually there's something going on in the relationships in our life, because we're very relational people. So if you're feeling stressed out all the time, look at the environment around you. You might be swimming in toxic soup, and the other thing, the mantra that was really helpful for me, is saying things like, that doesn't align for me. Saying yes wouldn't feel good in my body. Saying no is a complete sentence. It's okay to say that something in somebody doesn't just feel aligned for you. And you know what? There's a period at the end of that sentence. You don't have to explain yourself further if you don't want to. You don't have to override and bypass your own values and your own needs to satisfy the needs of the other person. Mic drop. I said what I said. Because let me tell you, I have overridden my nervous system and bypassed it like a friggin' alarm code. And all that did was prolong the inevitable, cause more pain for me and the other person, and destroy my body and my nervous system. And I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want that to happen to you. But like, if you're like single and you're like really trying to magnetize and like seek out a partner that's aligned for you, please ask that person who gives a crap about their favorite color, right? Like, what are your 5 non-negotiables? Like, what are the 5 principles that guide your life each and every day? And see if your value set and your value points align with theirs. Because if not, like, especially being like a single parent, like long term, I tell my girlfriends this all the time, like, dating as a single parent is such a twisted thing, because you have to rule out long-term compatibility so early on. So I ask very hard questions very, very early on to vet and weed out the people in my life that are interested in being in my world, right? Whether that's a dating partner, whether it's a business partner, I have to ask the hard questions very, very early on. I'm on an energetic budget, and I am only choosing to invest in people that feel aligned and that have shown evidence that they are aligned. Please, I encourage you to do the same. This one might be one of my favorite ones. I was just talking to one of my friends about this the other day. And you know what else I really learned is that there is a difference between chemistry and compatibility. Those are 2 very, very different things. Very, very different things. And in plain language too, men and women bond and experience these things very differently. So I also feel like I have to speak to that, because once I understood how, as a woman, like, I naturally bond and like, feel a chemical attraction to someone versus having long-term compatibility with someone, and then the difference that men have with that, I was like, oh, that's why. Okay. So there might be some aha moments, in talking about this. So, like, for me, when I think of chemistry, I think of fireworks, obsession, these like really big, beautiful like feelings in your body, like these big highs, but then there could also be like these lows too. Again, like I talked about dopamine, right? Dopamine, besides the anticipation chemical, it's also, a chemical that will help you bond to somebody. But as women, we bond differently than men do. And it's fascinating if you start to like be aware of this. And then you could like notice the difference like between men and women. Like, wow, it really is a pattern. It really is a thing. So chemistry is like that feel good sensation in your body, right? It's like euphoric, it's magnetic, it's this really intense feeling, right? When there's a lot of chemistry between two people. It's very clear that chemistry is in the room. Or when you watch two people who have great chemistry, it's like fireworks going off. The energy between them is like, oh my God, I love to see it. I love to see it. But compatibility, that's a little bit different. Compatibility is more of this steady, safe, shared direction, this like emotional steadiness. It's not this like big like flood of chemicals that happen in your body. When you're around somebody where there's not just chemistry but long-term compatibility, you don't have the high highs and low lows. You know, it can feel kind of boring sometimes, you know? And, you know, for me, I've had relationships in the past that the chemistry was undeniable. The chemistry was amazing. But the steady long-term compatibility wasn't there, right? I've noticed that when I'm in a healthy relationship, even though there's chemistry there, it actually can be like quite normal, and I don't want to say boring, but not eventful, which is a good thing. Like when Melissa says, yeah, you know, just like things are normal, you know, that's a good sign for me. When I use words like, yeah, like there's amazing chemistry there, but it's not like, oh my God, and it's like this high and this low, you know, like it's okay for a relationship to feel a little boring, you know, because that could mean that the long-term compatibility is there, that the safety is there, that the calmness is there. You know, chemistry is the spark, but compatibility is the long-term wiring that's going to sustain that relationship. Right? And a spark without wiring, well, what is that going to do? That's just going to burn the damn house down. And I don't know about you, but like, I'm good on it. I would like wiring for long-term growth and expansion and alignment, you know, as I'm sure you would too. And when we have strong chemistry with somebody, dopamine gets activated, even adrenaline gets activated. These are all like feel-good excitement chemicals in our body, right? Your nervous system gets activated. Like all these things come online when you have chemistry with somebody. It feels so good. It feels so good. That's why, like, if someone has an intense chemistry or chemical bond with somebody, right? That's why when that gets pulled away, when that dopamine and that adrenaline gets withdrawn, it can feel like a drug withdrawal because those chemicals are not being triggered anymore. So your brain is like, what is going on? Oh my God. But here's the secret sauce. Oxytocin. So when you have long-term compatibility with somebody, oxytocin gets kicked in and activated. So oxytocin is that bonding chemical in your body that creates this sense of love, this sense of safety, this sense of calmness within your nervous system. So, you know, when you have great chemistry with somebody, but then you also have this oxytocin dump that happens because that long-term compatibility is there, it is like the perfect chemical bond that could happen between you and another person. It's unbelievable. So what I would say is that, you know, don't just like seek out having good chemistry with somebody, but also somebody that will provide that sense of safety for you, that sense of emotional steadiness for you, not just the high highs and the low lows, but this just like this steady baseline that will carry both of you through. Like, that's so important. However, this is the juice here. Men and women, I did not freaking know this. Men and women do like experience these things and seek out these chemical experiences differently. We are literally wired differently. There are brain scans and studies that show that there is a different neural pathway that gets fired and activated in our brain when we experience things in relationship. And until you understand this, you really could be like walking in a dark room in your relationship. Like, it's really a thing. And so as women, we often bond through emotional intimacy, deep conversation, eye contact, vulnerability, physical closeness, not necessarily like deep intimacy, but just like being in proximity and physical closeness to somebody. For us, oxytocin gets released when we have these deep emotional connecting experiences with our partner. Women's brain tend to, what's the word? Like, we tend to integrate emotional processing and like language more easily. So what that means, are you guys listening? What that means is that we bond through talking. That's why, like, when you see women like yapping and like talking and like, oh my God, here's a girl, this lady's talking in a circle again. Like, you have to understand that is like our bonding chemical that gets activated during that time. So that's why for us as women, we often, like, after deep conversation or even intimacy, right? A woman can like feel very attached very, very quickly. And honestly, that's a pattern that I've noticed with myself as well, is that because I'm such a deep conversationalist, like, I don't care about your sports team. I don't care about the weather and your thoughts on it. Like, what do you think about the latest conspiracy theory? How did you overcome that childhood trauma? Like, I love that about me because it's like my heart is so open and expansive, which is such a beautiful gift of mine. However, let me tell you, that has gotten me emotionally attached to people that I shouldn't have been emotionally attached to, because I'm getting this like oxytocin, dopamine, not even adrenaline hit. Take the chemistry out of it, okay? I get this oxytocin, like deep attachment emotionally to somebody when I have these really deep conversations with people. And it's so hard for me to shut that off, because it's like, but I really do genuinely just want to understand you. And I really do genuinely really like want to learn more about you and like your perspective on things. For goodness sakes, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm the philosopher of the zodiac. I want to understand higher truth in all things and all people and all beings, you know? But that's not necessarily the healthiest thing, because I can emotionally attach to people very, very quickly that way. And I've noticed that pattern, and I've had to keep it in check, because before you know it, I have this deep emotional intimate bond with somebody that there's no reciprocity there. And that's not good for that person, and that's not good for me either. So just be mindful that if you're a woman, like, you're wired to bond when you deeply conversate with somebody. you know, and physical closeness. You know, that's why a lot of women, after they're intimate with somebody, they fall for them because we are wired in that way. Like, I promise, like, as women, we're not crazy. It's just literally our primal wiring. And the other thing that's kind of crazy is that men totally bond differently. Totally. And I have seen this pattern with my guy friends, with previous partners. Men typically bond through shared activities, through a common goal, through physical touch, through sexual connection. Like, there's this very heavy emphasis on physical connection during that. And also, like, teamwork and achievement. Like, you want a guy to be emotionally attracted to you and bonded to you. Pick something that you both could work on together. Like, that is how they're wired to bond. You know, and men often bond by doing something before they bond through, like, verbal processing and, like, talking. Like, they're naturally wired. Not that men can't do this, because they do, but their, like, natural primal wiring is to be doing something to bond with another person, not necessarily talking about it. And the reason for this is, for men, in your brain, testosterone, it's a testosterone thing, is my understanding, that testosterone kind of delays the emotional attachment to women and to a partner, while oxytocin builds slowly over time. For us as women, we get that oxytocin bump really, really quickly, but for men, it doesn't work like that. It's a more slower, gradual process, because you guys have testosterone that comes online super strong every single day. And as women, because we're, like, wired to, it's probably, like, because we're wired that we can, like, childbear and stuff, like, we have to be able to get this high, quick oxytocin bump so we can, like, nurture and care for our babies. It's probably, like, an evolutionary thing for, like, child rearing. So be mindful of that. Like, we really do bond with each other differently. And once I understood that, it really helped me understand my partners, like, throughout my lifetime, more and more. So men bond through doing, women can bond more through talking. So as men, the men listening, when you are talking to your partner, if you want her to feel more magnetic and more close to you, ask her open-ended questions. Ask her and provide her space to talk, because that's our sauce right there. I might have just given you the kryptonite, but, like, asking us, how was your day? Really? I'm so curious. Can you tell me more? Really? Tell me more about that. You know, like, just open-ended questions to give us space to talk, you know, when we're in conflict and even not in conflict. It really gives us that oxytocin dump in our body, but in a good way. I'm trying to think what else. And it's just, like, I feel like as men and women, we just have to understand each other a little more. You know, I said that in the last video, like, we really do have to do a better job at taking care of each other, especially, like, with our mental health. But I also feel like we just have to understand each other more. Like, when she feels deeply attached, when a woman feels deeply attached, that's not necessarily an unhealthy, crazy thing. She's wired to attach to you like that. Just like for men, right? He might feel connected to you, but he just might not be fully anchored yet or fully bonded to you. And you have to give him time and give him opportunity to explore that and to build that with you. That takes time, because for men, like, doing is what creates that bond, not talking it out. It's so much easier to be, like, talking it out and so much quicker, right? Whereas men, it's a shared vision, it's a shared goal, it's a shared thing that you're building together. Like, that takes time. So like, give the men some grace too. Like, you have to be patient with them also. And it's just like realizing that we, as men and women, we have different bonding pathways, and honoring that and communicating that too. But making sure you're making sure you're choosing to bond with people that are worthy of that and that are aligned with your VP, right? And that you're not filling this gap for people. You want to be seeking out relationships that not only have good chemistry, right? You want to be attracted to the person, right? Even if it's a friendship, like, you want to be attracted to being around them, and they're fun and you enjoy being in their company and in their energy. But also, like, you want to make sure that the long-term compatibility is there too. And if your nervous system is like on a high and low roller coaster, you're probably in the realm of just really good chemistry and not good long-term compatibility. And there sure is a difference between the two. And until I realized that, I was like lost in the sauce. And I don't want you to be lost in the sauce either. If you slow down physical intimacy, emotional compatibility can catch up, and you'll be able to tell if the long-term compatibility is there. So it's okay to like keep things slow, have a slow burn, because the long-term compatibility will show up if you can not be like, I guess you could say, distracted by like the good chemistry or that like dopamine and adrenaline dump, right? And asking those hard questions like, are we aligned with values? Are we aligned with lifestyle? Are we moving? Are we driving in the same direction? That's what I said in the first video. Like, the person that's meant for you and aligned for you, you both will be on the same highway together. You might be in like different lanes and in different cars, but you are still heading to the same destination and the same direction. So like, you have to be able to ask yourself, like, are we aligned with those things? You know, am I bonding faster than what reality is showing me? You know, like, be mindful of that too. And how do you feel after you're with that person? Does your body feel regulated? Does it feel dysregulated? Like, let me tell you, the body really does keep the score. Like, if you're leaving spending time with somebody and you feel drained, you feel tired, you feel stressed out, that is not aligned for you. That might have good chemistry, you know, you might be attracted to one another, but that doesn't mean the long-term compatibility is there. So don't like, stop expecting a person that you just have good chemistry with to have good long-term compatibility with. Those are two totally different things. Two totally different things. And I have one other point that I'm going to make, and then we're going to wrap this baby up. Let me tell you, when I realized this, when I was in therapy, this was like 2 years ago when I was in a therapy session, and I had one of the biggest aha moments. The biggest aha moments. Did you ever leave a therapy session and it's like, oh, my God, how did I not realize that? And it was so simple too, but it's always the most it's like simple principles that like really shake us to our core. And it was this principle that, Melissa, you don't attract what you want, you attract what feels normal. And so if chaos feels normal, guess what? You're going to pick chaos, not even consciously, subconsciously. It's like, what is it like? It's like, it's like having an outdated GPS rerouting you in the same neighborhood again and again and again and again. And you're like, this is weird. Have I been here before? No, have I? Maybe. I don't know. I don't like that they did that. But it's different. But it's not. But but it kind of is. Healing requires an updated GPS. And this past year, let me tell you, after I had to call off my engagement and I came back to the same lesson, the same damn lesson of safety for myself, I was like, oh my God, my GPS is outdated. And healing is what updates the GPS. Healing is what stops that pattern of me not just attracting what's normal, but attracting what I want for my life. And my brain prioritized familiarity over safety, over happiness. Remember, your brain, the amygdala, that stem in your brain, it will scan, literally, it will scan for what's familiar and what's known. But what's also really cool is that, and I learned this when I was a therapist, when I was like helping people like with trauma and stuff, is that your brain is actually very neuroplastic. What that means is that nothing is hardwired 100% in your brain. You have structure in your brain, right? But what's really cool is there's this neuroplasticity. There's this ability for your brain to rewire itself. And I've seen it firsthand, like when I worked with a lot of people with mental health issues and even substance use issues, is that the brain can heal itself, which is so freaking cool. And when you learn how to like regulate your nervous system, when you learn and you heal your attachment wounds and you figure out, okay, I don't have to attach to this person from this wounded place. I don't have to do that anymore. And then what's really interesting is that your attraction will begin to shift. Your quote unquote type changes. And when I start to say to like my girlfriends, like, I'm interested in this person, but this person like really isn't like Melissa's like type, that's probably a good thing. And that's probably a good thing for you too, because when you really heal, what you're attracted to will shift and change too. You won't just say yes to anybody or anything. Before I was healed, I would, not healed, we're all always healing, but before I recognized this pattern, I would be attracted or be drawn to emotionally unavailable people. I would have these, like, I would feel drawn to these people that just this high intensity, like very magnetic type of connections with people, but it was quite chaotic, to be honest. And it just, like the highs and lows, like I don't know why I was so drawn to that, because now chaos, that high and low, no, it's exhausting. It feels exhausting to me. Steadiness and consistency feels attractive to me now. Someone who's like so clear on their intentions and their VPs and my VPs, like that is so attractive to me. Like it's not even just all about like physical looks for me anymore. I want the person to be like a good steward of their body and their health, like I am, because that's a VP for me. But like looks are like not everything. That's just like the cherry on top. It's all the other essence of a person that I'm like attracted to. And like not forcing these things, has been so good. It's been so good. It's been so good. So I would say, like, be mindful of that. Are you attracting people in your life based on a wounded version of yourself, or based off of a healing version of yourself, because you have to heal that deep root wound. Like, you really, really do. And like, sometimes you can stay in a relationship that's really challenging for you and heal and work through it together. But sometimes you have to not just upgrade your GPS, you need to get on a different freaking road. You need to upgrade your environment. You need to start from scratch and start afresh. So whatever you feel called to do is okay, but please give yourself permission, like I had to choose peace repeatedly and safety repeatedly until that felt normal. It's so hard to do that though, because, God, I thrive in chaos, which is so twisted, but I have just such a high tolerance for chaos and resilience that I can do very well in a very unhealthy situation for a very long time. But that doesn't mean I should though, and that doesn't mean you should either. You know, it doesn't mean you should either. But please, for the love of God, choose peace repeatedly until that starts to feel normal for you. Be in reckless pursuit of peace and safety until anything else but that feels cringy and icky to you. And that's what I promised myself that I was going to do, even if that meant I was going to be alone for the rest of my life. If that means that safety and peace is just me and being an amazing mom and a kick-ass business owner, then that's it. Anything else that comes into my sphere, if it's not bringing safety and peace, I don't want nothing to do with it. And that's how I know that I'm doing the healing work, because if I wasn't, I would still be addicted to that chaotic environment. Now what? Now what? I would say mind the gap between fantasy and facts. Don't close the gap for people anymore. I have rebuked closing the gap for people in my life. I cannot do that anymore. The amount of energy it takes to close the gap is way too much. You have so much beautiful energy to give the world. It's time for you to not close that gap between fantasy and facts anymore. I also hope and pray that you can protect your values at all cost. The people that are meant to be in your life will honor and protect those values too, because guess what? They're going to have the same ones. And you can't be upset that the person next to you doesn't have the same set of values. They are entitled to that value point set. They are entitled to live out their truth and to do that. But that doesn't mean that you have to be in a relationship with them like you have been. It's okay. It's okay. Let them live out their value point set and you live out yours. You know, if you can come to a point where your blueprints can come together, then you rebuild from there. But it's okay to build your own blueprint. It's okay for that person to build their own blueprint too. You don't need to force it anymore. It's okay. Like, I'm trying to give you the permission slip that it's okay. And to also remember that when you upgrade your nervous system and you do this deep healing work, you also upgrade your relationships and you upgrade your life. One of the best things that you can do is to invest in yourself and to invest in your healing. And whether that's going to therapy, that's doing yoga, that's going to the gym, that's doing something that will help regulate your nervous system, that is one of the best things that you can invest in. Because when you upgrade your mind, you upgrade your life. And when you upgrade your life, you upgrade your relationships. Relationships are the deepest spiritual work that you will do in your life. You will hear me say this again and again and again and again till the very end of time. Invest in that. Invest in that. It's so worth it. And the other thing too is that healing doesn't just raise your standards. It will literally change your brain and it will change your chemistry. and how you attract things in your life and how you bond to people. And that's why I want to keep talking about this, because there are so many of you that reached out to me via phone call, via text, via DM, via comments. So many of you said, Melissa, I really need to heal. I really need to work on this. I went through a divorce. I went through the same thing with betrayal. I blah, 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 blah. Like, you need to be able to heal too. You deserve to heal also. And if there's anything that I can do here is to, like, use my voice as medicine to help you. Because this is the thing with me, and I'm going to end on this, and why I want to anchor back to my why and why the hell I'm doing this. When it comes to really shitty points in my life and really hard things, trauma, all the things, in order for this is very important, like, for my healing journey, because I need to give testimony to the tests in my life. I need medicine to come out of me because of the pain that I have been through. I want if my pain can help somebody else and be somebody else's medicine and like antidote to not end up where I was, it's so healing for me. Because it's as if, like, the end kisses the beginning. It's like the end of one chapter of my life, going back and honoring and thanking the really hard times that I didn't get to share on social media. You know, it's a way for me to honor and bow down to the version of me that got through that, to bear witness to her, and to, like, honor her and say thank you for your strength and your resilience and for getting through that. It's like what I'm seeing, it's so tender and emotional. It's like seeing me lay flowers down at the feet of this previous version of me that was so heartbroken and so physically sick and, like, in such a bad place in her life. So talking about it now and giving medicine to it now feels so good to do, because it's like honoring this past version of myself while encouraging other people to be their best version of themselves too, you know? So that's it for now. Thank you for coming to this Dashboard Confessional. Until next time, everybody. See you soon.